Welcome to the Draftstars AFL show with Smatho and Roody.
Hello. Welcome to the Draftstars AFL show. With thanks to Draftstars and to Daily Fantasy Ranking, Smatho and Roody are back here for Round 9, Collingwood versus the Bulldogs. Friday night footy. We're back to the single games. Roody's back to break it all down for us here for Draftstars. Good evening, Roody. Good morning if you're listening on the podcast, or good afternoon if you're catching up on your way to work or after work for Friday night footy. Rudy, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I thought you were saying good morning to me. I was like, geez, I look that tired. Like, I know I am tired at the moment, but I hope I don't come across that way on the YouTube channel. But no, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me back again this week, and looking forward to discussing what could be an interesting slate tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's another round we're talking up the Bulldogs. So obviously we're a little bit attuned to what they've been producing this year. But having the Magpies here on a Friday night, it's going to be throw up some interesting lineups. And just to foreshadow, we've got a lot of cheap players this week. So we'll get stuck into those there very shortly. But as always, I want to give a little shout out to our golden ticket winners for the AFL $500,000 live final here. And look at here, these ones, Rudy. These are the guys have been cleaning up with their second tickets this week, including DXT 001, Donkey Quad Squad, Swanee Lee's coming to Melbourne. The overall champion from a couple of years is Sunke, Milanos, Grizz 17, Liam Swan. And then obviously we had an NBA ticket the other day, which was Canna 458. So congratulations to these lucky ticket winners. Looking forward to see them at the Draftstars AFL Live Final. Now, Rudy, we're already up to 63 tickets have been won. So we're just about at 33%. If you want to be technical, it's around 32.5% of tickets won. And we're only, 5-6 weeks into it. So make sure you get the Draftstars and look for the golden ticket qualifiers to win your way to the live final. Now, just before we get on to the preview for this week, bit of a plug this week, Rudy. And this could be in your wheelhouse. I'm looking forward to seeing your entries in this brand new contest that is available on Draftstars. And I'm talking about the new contest, $1 entry. It's available in the AFL lobby right now. If you scroll down here, past the high roll, the mini, the fiver, there it is, the $3,000 Magpies versus Bulldogs Buck Hunter. And then what do you reckon? Why do you think we've created a Buck Hunter here for us already?
I don't know. Could it have been through some murmurings and chatting that was happening on Twitter after. Hey, look, it doesn't matter why it's there. It matters that it's there, and it's there. And hopefully the people who have been asking for it come and play in their droves. 100 limit on there, so people can do their mass entering if they want to. It's open to everyone, isn't it? Smatho, Sharks and non-Sharks alike.
Oh, let's not label people in terms of derogatory terms such as that. It's just
an unrestricted. It's a compliment. I would love to be one day known as a shark. Maybe at the moment, maybe I'm a gummy. I don't know, but at the moment, I'd love to be known as a shark.
Okay, fair enough. As I said, it's a $1 entry, 100 max for this particular contest on Friday night. The prizes, I think we've done a good job here, because we want to make sure that when you're playing at these low stakes, when you're playing tournaments as well, you want to perceive that you're actually building a bank. And obviously, building a bank, you can do that through double ups and head-to-heads and things like that. But I think one of the key features is if you make the money, you've got to actually double your money. Okay, so none of this, I'm in a dollar contest and I'm going to get $1.50 if I make the money. Nope. Every contest, you will double your money guaranteed, top 25%. And then obviously 10% for the winner, which obviously in this case is $300. So look for this particular contest. The premise about this is that, yes, you can build your mass entry skills and then go against, everyone in the competition, knowing that it's only a small investment. So look for that particular contest in the Draftstars lobby. It's called the Buck Hunter. Thank you to all the folks on social media who suggested some names. There were some really, really good ones. There was a couple of ones there that we couldn't get across the line due to trademarks. Dollar Dazzlers, Buckaroo, dollar something, dollar is all I need, kind of stuff like that. It was just, fortunately, legal said no, but you can get away with a Buck Hunter. So that is available this week on Draftstars. Now, Rudy, let's get you into it. Let's have a look at the Friday night game. So it is the Magpies and the Bulldogs. We're at Marvel Stadium. They always seem to play at this particular venue every year, and there's always murmurs that that the Pies should be playing at the G. But no, we're at Marvel Stadium. $75,000 prize pool is available from Draftstars at the 7:50 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time start. Just under $7,500 is the first prize in our main pool this week. And also your chance to win your way to the $500,000 live final is available as well. Let's have a look at the team changes here, Rudy. Pies only make one change. Caleb Poulter in for his first game of the year. Jack Ginnivan is out with illness. I do believe Jack Madgen was the medi-sub last week, but he keeps his spot. So Trent Bianco goes out for him. As for the Bulldogs, some good ins. Alex Keefe, Marcus Bontempelli come in. Jordan Sweet is number one ruck this week. Riley West and Luke Cleary in for his first game for the Dogs. Big outs, though. Waitman, Crozier, Vandermeer, Rourke Smith, Stephen Mart, who's been managed, and Tim O'Brien are all out of the Dogs side. Starting with the Pies here first. Obviously, it looks like a settled lineup. Do we know what we're getting from the Pies this week in terms of fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we know roles. I think by this stage of the year, we can be pretty clear on what people's roles are, So, for example, it's helped us analyse this game knowing that Collingwood haven't made too many changes. I suppose the only thing to discuss here is the role that Poulter will play. Now, he's someone who I was really disappointed. I missed out on him in my Dynasty League a couple of years ago because his highlights tape is just about as good as any young midfielder you see. He finds the ball, and I would not be surprised if in a couple of years' time that he's a much more known, a much better known name than he is now because he can play. The kid can play, but breaking into Collingwood's midfield at the moment, they're running a pretty tight ship there, Smatho. There probably won't be too many CBAs available for him, even though it is where I would love to see him play. And 10K, he's been priced up. We'll discuss this later, but he's been priced up on the back of a couple of hundreds from last year. So he has been priced up. So Poulter comes in, may move things around. You see that Nick Dacos has been named on a half forward flank this week. Probably, I reckon it's time to see what this kid can do. Let's open up the engine a little bit. And, he has been playing behind the ball, a little bit on ball as well. But let's see what he can do forward of the ball. I'd love to see it. So hopefully he actually plays there. I hate it when teams name players where they don't play. It really annoys me, a little bugbear of mine. So for the Dogs, though, I think we can pretty much go through these changes and get rid of the like for likes. Okay, so obviously Bont comes back in, and that's a huge bonus for the Dogs. But Cleary comes in to replace Tim O'Brien. He's a intercept defender, Cleary, but he's a rookie, so it's always a bit of caution playing rookies in the first game. Riley West, he's a role player. There are a lot of these West and McNeil and, these guys who we're not kind of sure. They can play lots of roles, basically. But then Jordan Sweet comes in for the ghost of Stephen Martin. Sorry, Steph, I love you. You were great for the Demons when we were terrible. Super smart guy as well, one of the smartest footballers going around. But I think it is time to say goodbye to Steph. Jordan Sweet, got to give the kid a run before English comes back. And then it'll be a bit of mixing around to take over the Waitman forward role. I don't know. Has someone else been practicing drawing high freeze this week? Because that's really all Waitman does. Charlie Spargo light, indeed. So we will, discuss some forward options to replace Waitman when we get to that section.
Excellent. Now, for all of our previews tonight, we do use Daily Fantasy Rankings 3. Tools are available at dailyfantasyrankings.com.au. Make sure you also check out our game-by-game previews throughout round 9. But let's get stuck into this week, Rudy. And we always start here with the ruckman. So we don't have our number one ruckman available for either side, but obviously Darcy Cameron's come in and done a pretty good job there at $10,110. Jordan Sweet does get a run here at $8,660, and then we've got some cheaper options in terms of Aiden Begg at $6,720, and Zane Cordy is still at the flat minimum of $6,000. And look, obviously, no English, no Grundy, and now no Steph Martin. It's looking like a pretty chalky night for this particular position.
It is. It really is Chalk Fest 2022. I suppose the only thing you can think about is whether you only play one of them. Okay, so probably the chalkiest thing to do would be to play Sweet as your ruck, and then play Cameron in your forward line. And I think if you're playing cash, that is what most people will do. Okay, so I guess the way you could differentiate your rucks is if you just play one of them. And I think that if you're just playing one of them, it has to be Cameron. You know, I don't think you get, by playing Sweet and not Cameron, I just don't think you get any benefit from that unless Cameron gets injured. You know, the only way that Cameron doesn't become, a bust is if he gets injured, basically. Interestingly, I did go back to look at Jordan Sweet's stats from last year, and he did, he got a couple of 80s, I think, and interestingly, he scored really well when he played against Paddy Ryder. It was just Ryder, no Marshall that night. Ryder got 41 hit-outs. Okay, now Ryder is an excellent tap ruckman. Darcy Cameron isn't. You know, Smatho, if you open up Cameron's box scores there, you can see that he, in the games where he has been the main ruckman, 14 hit-outs, 15 hit-outs. It's not like he's dominating. He's against Nankervis and then Witt. So he's had pretty tough matchups. Sweet is taller, so he has the potential to win the hitouts, but Sweet doesn't really add as much as Cameron does around the ground. He has had a couple of 10-plus disposal games last year when he was solo ruck, but he's also had a few lower games as well. So for me, look, the option is pretty clear. You either play both of them, so that's Sweet and Cameron, or you just try to, go for a bit of a less chalkier lineup and just play Cameron. The other option, Zane Cordy is never the option for me. Again, only injury, throwing him into the ruck could see him be the play. Begg, I was hoping he might get forward DPP status this week. He hasn't been bad. Like, he's been popping up to 9x value, which isn't bad, but there are so many cheap players on this slate, Smatho. There are 11 players under 7K, which I can't remember a single slate like this with 11 players under 7. You know, it's actually quite unheard of, which does worry me a little bit. I hope we don't get some boring stars and scrubs. You know, I hope that people try and be a little bit more clever than that. I'll be really disappointed if just a classic stars and scrubs does win. I hope we see a bit of a more even lineup at the top of the podium. And again, that's how you diversify. But that's how you diversify on a slate where you've got one or two 6K players. We've got 11. So there are just so many different options here. But yeah, for me, it'll be, obviously the options are clear. I don't think there's too much to discuss.
Thank you for that. Thanks to Julian, who's jumped on tonight, saying, "G'day, boys, loving the content." Thanks for having us on board, Marty. Let's move on to the defenders. Now, this is where actually going to make or break the slate, because when we get on to the mids and forwards later on, there's a lot of mid-forward options that you can just jam in either position. But here's your defenders. You've only got Jack Crisp here at 15,750 is also a mid available. Dacos there at 12,800 is also available as a dual threat. But apart from that, everyone else is just in that single defender position, above here, 7K. So this is where you want to really nail your selections here, because this is going to make or break you.
Yeah, look, I don't know that it's going to make or break. I think you can get pretty funky in the forward line as well. I think there are a couple of ways to get pretty diverse in your forward line that we'll get to soon. But yeah, the interesting thing is if you look at the stats, the trends on DFR, you'll see that the Bulldogs present a pretty good matchup, giving away the 6th most points overall to defenders. However, Collingwood defenders haven't really been cashing in as much as they have been in years past. In years past, you could count on Howe, Maynard, to really rack up those big scores with their chip kicks around the back line. They're not really playing like that much anymore. They're trying to move the ball faster, and as a result, we're not seeing those big scores to Collingwood defenders, or really even Collingwood players at all, Smatho. Collingwood used to be one of those teams you could really stack, and they're not doing that much anymore. There's only been a couple of hundreds. Like, I've actually been pretty surprised that their prices haven't come down a little bit more. Something you might want to pass on to the bosses there at DS. But you look like you want to interject there.
I'm just gonna butt in. Yes, I'm just looking at the tools here on DFR now. So Collingwood for team stats accumulated, it's actually 10th position, 360 disposals. You got Western Bulldogs out at 372. The one that shades out in pink, which means it's a low score, 75 uncontested marks per round, where around the average here is around the mid-80s, high 80s for other teams. So what's that? That's bottom 4 for uncontested marks. So that just goes back to your point saying their game style has changed. If you want to be linking, your defenders, it doesn't really happen anymore. So the data's backing up your point there. So I just want to give you a little kudos there too, mate.
Yay! Data actually backs up something I say. There we go. All right. If only that happened when I had arguments with a wife, my life would be a lot better. So I should probably stop that during these chats. I think that's twice in a row I've mentioned it. I love you, honey. I really do. That said, I mean, is it possible that we're going to get one of these, blue moon games from a Noble or Noble has been pretty consistent, but Quainer or even Maynard, who really, those of you who used to read my articles know how much I used to love Maynard, Mr. 70, I used to call him, so consistent, but he's been totally off the boil this season so far. Look, I want to start actually down the bottom. Can we start down the bottom and then go up, Smatho? Is that okay?
We can.
I know you're a top-down man usually.
Yeah, so also we've got a plethora of Bulldogs options here, including Bailey Williams at 7.2, Ryan Garner just the 7, Alex Kiefer comes back at 6,060, Buku Kamonis at 6,000, and obviously there's new starter in Luke Cleary at 6 as well. So a lot of role players down here, but are you interested in here?
Yeah, I do have a bit of interest in these really cheap defenders, I'll be honest, I do. Luke Cleary, he has actually had a couple of 80s, 60s, in the VFL, characterised by marking, like he's a marking intercept kind of player. I just don't know that we need to get that clever, because you can play an Alex Keith for basically the same role, and you get more of a floor, I guess. You can play Alex Keith. I mean, if you look at Alex Keith's last game, it was a massive 95, okay? Characterised by 10 marks. Now, that is probably well beyond his ceiling. That it's an absolute dream if you're playing Alex Keith and getting a 90, but it could happen. And the other reason why I think it's a worthwhile play is because Collingwood's key forwards, like, they're not that big, so they've got Zane Cordy marks up on my check. And then the next biggest is this big guy or Ollie Henry, who's not super tall. So I think there is a chance here that the taller, that mid-size Bulldogs defender could get off the leash a little bit. So Keith or the new boy Cleary, you could play. I definitely wouldn't play any of them together. Gardner, no. Bailey Williams, Melbourne has absolutely killed Bailey Williams in that grand final. He's nowhere near the player he used to be. The other guy, before we move up the ladder there, Camus, he'll play in the forward line. He did last week. And I think I was really impressed, Smatho. I don't know about you. He really did move to the right spaces. And if the Astronaut's taking all the attention, Camus, he really worked well. I was super impressed. So I don't mind a backline of Camus and Keith. I think that is super unique on a night that will be really, really chalky in other places. And that does allow you to play Sweet in the ruck and Cameron in the forward line. I really don't think a lot of people have that back line at all.
Fair enough. All right, let me scroll up now. The guys are in the mid-tiers here. So we're talking about Ed Richards. We always seem to be trying to get him up. 67 last week, which is obviously not too bad at $9,000. Darcy Moore at 9-1, Braden Mader the same price at 9-1, Taylor Duray, Isaac Quainer, Johnny Noble, then obviously Jeremy Howe at 10,680 are your mid-range players here. They seem to be consistently around the mid-50s, mid-60s, popping up for a good 70-80 score at times. So if you chickened out on these 6K players, do you come up to here?
Yeah, definitely. Of those players just mentioned, Ed Richards is someone who I'll keep playing him until we get that 80-90 game. I think it's worth it again. Who came out? We had Crozier came out. He was a medi sub. So you've still got Duray in there playing a similar role, and Bailey Dale's the prime mover. Ed Richards is kind of like the secondary option there. So Ed Richards would definitely be in my player pool, as would Noble, Howe, of that range. I probably wouldn't be looking at Noble and Quainer. Noble's going to be quite popular, I reckon, tomorrow night. A lot of people have been clicking on John Noble. He's got a really good floor. Well, he has over this year so far. I know he has had, I think it was one game where he got injured. But apart from that, his floor has been pretty good. So I think he'll be actually quite a popular mid-price play tomorrow. Jeremy Howe, man, I wish we saw that ceiling. We've seen glimpses of it with a couple of 90s. But again, the Bulldogs, if they don't get their forward entries sorted, then hopefully Jeremy Howe can take advantage of that. But you know what? I thought that in weeks gone by, and it just hasn't materialised. So interestingly, like the last game that he did score well was against Essendon, who can also have similar issues moving the ball inside 50.
All right, so go back up towards the top here. Caleb Daniel at 12.2. Scotty Penderbury always seems to be a very popular selection at 12,610. And then we've got Dacos at 12.8, which you have noted that we could possibly be at a roll change, moving up the ground a little bit more. And then we've got Dale at 13.6 and Jackie Crisp at 15.7. So just quickly, on any of these guys also on your radar?
Dacos and Dale, yes, definitely. Pendlebury and Daniel, I really like them. Probably Pendles over Daniel there, with the kind of game style that I expect to see. Crisp, that's a good point there, Mr. Jenkins. How and more to respond to the media hammering their receiver? That's a very good point. I just don't know how we could see more. There we go, double. Yeah, you're right. They did cop a Darcy Moore. For anyone who didn't watch that game, the Richmond game, I know that's the role he plays. I know he plays that, off the man kind of role. But okay, when you see that it's not working by 4 goals in the first quarter, you might want to get a bit closer, son. And geez, having Jack Madgen on the bench at that time, that was just crazy, absolutely crazy. Anyway, Crisp is a really interesting one tomorrow night. If you look at the stats, Smatho, should we go into the midfield now and this can be our segue to the midfield?
Sure can.
Because the Bulldogs, tell us the stats about the Bulldogs and the points they give away to midfielders.
Yeah, so over on DFR, I've looked it up. So in the last 5 games, the top 3 opposition midfielders only averaging 88 fantasy points. So that's your top 3 studs are not getting the job done against the Dogs. They've been stingy. So it means that possibly the Pies midfield, if the data comes through, we're having a rough time. But we don't have those massive midfielders that we have anymore. Sure, Chris, you lob in as the massive midfielder, but Taylor Adams is not exactly. Look, there's 113 and a 93 there, but it's going to be a tough work against the Dogs here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on a slate like this, where there are so many cheap options, I think it's easy to be starstruck. It's easy to get these team jamming in. You could really play McRae, Crisp, Smith, Dunkley. Chuck that in for us. Chuck it in a McRae, Smith, Dunkley, Crisp midfield.
So those 3 there. Yeah, McRae, Smith, Crisp midfield. Yep. And
you can even put Dunkley in as well.
Okay.
How much does that give us?
6,890 per player left.
Okay, so let's then go for my backline with Alex Keefe and Baku.
Okay. There you go. And then I'll see
Cool.
you've gone a Cameron Ruck.
You can go Aiden Begg or whoever. Like, you can do it. It's possible on a slate like this. It really is. That's gross for me. I really hope a team like that does not win, because that's not how I like to play at all. That's probably why I never win. But okay, let's do this properly then, Smatho. Okay, so you are so right in that it just doesn't seem like these Collingwood midfielders are getting near their historic ceilings at all. Jordan De Goey, Taylor Adams have all been, decent without being amazing in terms of fantasy footy output recently. And that's with, like, they're getting most of the ball. Pendles isn't there anymore. Who else has come out of that midfield? Side bottom, I know, hasn't played the midfield for a while, but, like Taylor Adams and Jack Crisp really have as many CBAs as they want. It's Adams, Crisp, Lipinski, who else? De Goey.
And De Goey.
That's it. So, there's no reason why these guys shouldn't be scoring more. They're just not getting hands to the ball. And I think the reason for that has a lot to do with the poor form of Brodie Grundy before his injury. And then afterwards, Cameron just doesn't get tap outs as much as he should. However, he's coming up against a team that also doesn't get hit outs without, it's funny. Can you imagine where I was about to say without Tim English around? And just a couple of seasons ago, we were rubbishing Tim English. Not me. I've always been a huge fan. All right, I'm waffling. Stop me waffling, Smatho. That's your job. So the top tier midfielders are like Dunkley is seriously expensive, and he burnt us all last week. Will we see some recency bias with people avoiding another burn from Josh Dunkley? Has to be in your pools. That goes without saying. Smith, again, with his ceiling, should be in your pools, but I won't be heavy on either Dunkley or Smith. Crisp, I think he'll be the highest scoring Pies player, but I won't be too heavy on him. McRae is the one who I'll be going back to. Showed definitely with Bont out last week that he had some more time around the ball. I don't think Bont's return is going to hurt him that much, so I'll be very keen on McRae at a $2,000 discount from Dunkley. Bontempelli himself, don't expect your 130s that you might get from these other guys, but a consistent 110 is definitely in his range of outcomes, and Treloar are similar, but maybe a little bit lower than Bont as well. Libba, the games that you really want from Libba are where he kicks goals. He really needs those goal-kicking games to get up to value. So not for me, really. I will be looking at Lipinski, though, and the one that I want to throw out there, I really am unsure of his role, is this guy, Caleb Poulter. He's 10K, so it's a risk. It's a real risk on a slate where there is so much value, but the reward of playing him at 10,000 when not many people will, let's be honest, and coming back with an 80 or 90 even when one of these other guys totally, goes 20 or 30, 40, you're going to do quite well. So he'll be in my teams for sure. The other guys, not so much. Side bottom, no. Hoskin Elliott, he's prone to these one massive game a season kind of thing. And let's be honest, but he's kind of not playing that half forward role. He's more stuck on a wing these days. He kind of needs to be that marking half forward to get to his historic ceiling. And then I don't think I'll be going to Robbie McComb, Tyler Brown or McNeil. I don't think there's a need to go that low today, especially on a midfield spot. Did I miss anyone that you're keen on there, Smatho?
No, you've gone through pretty much every player there, which is fantastic. Shout out to you, Caden. Thanks for tuning in the show. Would love a Saturday or Sunday slate every now and then. Keep it up. Obviously, we'd love to do that. Maybe one time during the buy rounds, we might get together and see if we can pump out some single slate stuff, possibly maybe into the future. But thanks, Caden, for the shout out there for us. As always with the forwards here on Draftstars, you will get a nice little selection of the old mid-forward types here. So we've gone through the Dunkley, Treloars, De Goeys, Liberatories, side buttons of the world here. So that only just leaves a couple of players that we need to highlight. So obviously the Aaron Norton, he's always there at the 10,660. does have a great ceiling. He does have a very poor floor, though. So he's available if you think a Bulldogs win is on the cards. Brody Myercheck, he's kind of like the Norton 2.0 play here. So, yes, he does have a good ceiling around that 80 mark, but once again, his floor's a little bit better than Norton. So he's available there at 9.3. And then we start getting to the cheap guys again, which, as you can see, there's a lot here as well. So let me go back to Norton. Thoughts about him at 10,660?
Well, I think the comment that we had about 10 minutes ago about do we see more and how come up for blood after they copped to baking the media, now that's the time to answer that, because the answer to that question influences your choice of whether or not you play Norton or not. So clearly we saw Tom Lynch completely tear the Pies apart last week, right? So, and Norton is, in my opinion, 50 times the player that Tom Lynch is, So if Norton can do what Tom Lynch did, then yes, he's definitely someone to consider. What's interesting about Norton is that he really does need to kick a big bag to get that much sought after 10x value. Even on nights when he kicks 4 or 5, he can only go to about 100 sometimes. It's when he roams up the ground and then also kicks a bag is where we really see his 120, 130 potential. So with Camus there, I'm not sure he'll do that. I think he'll play more closer to home. But definitely on a night after Collingwood has given up, was it 7 goals to Lynch? Is that what he kicked? You have to consider Norton for sure. But the trend, Smatho, is key forwards against the Bulldogs yet again. I think I posted on Twitter last week that got one reply, yay, engagement, that Bulldogs have been really leaky against key forwards. Now, I don't particularly like Collingwood's key forwards that much. I think you were very kind calling my check, Norton 2.0. I'd call him like Norton 50.1. Look, Brody's okay. It's not often that he gets to be the best Brody in his team, so let's let him enjoy the limelight at the moment. But the one who I really like in that key forwards against the Bulldogs line of trending is Ollie Henry. Right, here's my little sneak here. Ollie Henry, 7K. Again, this is a way that if you are chalky throughout the rest of your team, you can get a bit diverse by playing Ollie Henry in the hope that he kicks a couple of goals. He's kicked at least one goal in every game he's played, and 3 of the 5 games he's played, he's kicked multiple goals. Of the other cheaper players, the Ginnivan role. I said to you off air, Smatho, I don't know how this guy has a role, the Ginnivan role. It's usually like the Cozzy Pickett role or, the Wayne Carey role, not the Ginnivan role, whatever. But McCreary is probably the best person to take over that hassling small forward kind of role. But, not too keen on him. He has shown that he can get 10x value, though, a couple of times already this year. Everyone else in that list we've discussed. Riley West, I must admit, Bulldogs fan, I'm not going to try and pull the wool over your eyes. I have no idea of these players just seem the same to me. Riley West, McNeil, McComb, like they just seem so interchangeable. Is it likely that one of them pops up for 10x value? Yeah, it is. Which one? Who knows? So it's a really tough one to click these guys just because of the uncertainty of their role, which then influences, of course, their floor or ceiling.
Yeah. You end up going to have choosing probably one if you're doing this double ruck stack, which obviously a lot of players will do. So I wouldn't rack my brain too much in terms of trying to get funky in the forward line. Obviously, you've got a lot of midfield options as well. So don't be surprised to see, obviously, your Cameron and, say, Norton line up together. So don't be too surprised. All right, Rudy, let's wrap up the show with your team of the week. Looking forward to this one.
This one is, I must admit, I'm pretty impressed with, if anyone's been following the DFR little cheat sheets that come out for every slate, they're doing pretty well. Smatho, have you noticed that? I reckon those teams have been really well, and I am nowhere near as good as those guys. Let's be honest. I thought I would go all funky last week and try and get some. I was so sure that team was going to catch, and then it died in the ass in the last quarter. So sorry, watchers, that did not materialize for me. But you know what? I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm going to build a real GPP winning lineup here. I do not suggest you play this lineup because you will hate me for it. Let's go. Let's do it, Smatho.
I'm looking forward to the 100 lineup train and the Buck Hunter. This particular lineup, just scoop it all up. All right, so I'm going to make the assumption that you are going to play Jordan Sweet in the ruck, and then you're going to pop Darcy Cameron in the forward line. Good assumption.
Yeah, that's a safe assumption, and the reason is because my lineup is so weird in the rest of its positions. Yeah,
fair enough. All right, defense. Am I scrolling down towards the bottom?
You are. All
right, excellent. All right, so you did say, just while we've been recording, there's a little injury icon there, but that's okay. So Alex Keefe, you say at 6,060, and then obviously he's the guy on the forward line, Buku, who's going to go there as well. Geez, I'm doing this for you. I'm starting to know you. All right, rattle off your midfield, please.
Okay, midfield, let's lock in Jack McRae, please, firstly.
Jack McRae, 15,540.
Exactly right. Then we are going to go now. Actually, I will admit this part I'm making up on the spot because I haven't given it too much thought after the other guys. We are going to go with let's go with Dunkley, please.
Joshy Dunkley in the midfield, 17,330.
Yep. I'm going to regret this, but I am going with Poulter.
Yep, you talked him up. You got to live by the sword, die by the sword. Let's get him in there.
And I'm also going to put Jack Crisp in.
15,750. So we've got McRae, Dunkley, Poulter, Crisp. Midfield, that leaves you $10,180 for your forward.
And I am leaving a bucket load of cash on the table. Give me. No, I can't do it. Now let's give me Ollie Henry. Give me Ollie Henry.
That's 7,530. So that leaves you 2,650 in the back.
I'm going to make a change. I'm going to make a late change and put in Liba instead of Poulter.
Okay. All right.
So I cannot leave that much money on the table.
That's going to cost you a second entry, as they say.
Yeah.
Elliott loves your your team here. So I'm looking forward to the head-to-heads that you're going to be posting in the Draftstars lobby.
You know what? It is. I agree with you, mate. That is the worst team I've ever given. But I tell you what, I have. I play for fun. I don't play for any. I'm never going to make a lot of money out of this. That's just not why I play. I'm not that kind of guy. But the one thing that I have learned, and as bad as this team is, the one thing that you really need to do, you need to trust the data, but you also need to go with your gut. There are so many times that I've had a team that's been just about to crack that top three, and I thought, if I played that guy over that guy. And it's not, and they're guys who I considered. They're guys who I knew were going to do well, and I thought, but his floor is a little too low, or the trend says something else. I'm just like, no, go with your gut. So you know what? That's a pretty crap team. Please don't play it. This is not financial advice. That little TikTok disclaimer, but trust your guts, Smatho.
No, Rudy, I think you're selling yourself short there. Look, obviously you provide excellent game theory. All right. Now, obviously when it comes to jamming these guys into 100,000 salary cap, that's the hard bit, and sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. But that's the beauty of AFL DFS. So, mate, don't sell yourself short, but I'm looking forward to your content next week. We'll be back next Thursday night for round 10. Now, Dylan doesn't mind it. So, everyone has an opinion. Thank you very much for the viewers who tuned in. Also, a quick sneaky shout out to all the guys who did the Draftstars survey. Thank you very much for all your responses. We're looking forward to continuing building the product here at Draftstars. And we've got plenty of things in the pipeline as we go throughout the season. So keep an eye on our socials. And, there'll be some more content coming your way. So make sure you stay tuned to Draftstars. Now, Rudy, thank you very much for your contributions on the Draftstars AFL show. Looking forward to catch up with you next week, mate.
Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.
See you guys. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the comments, and we'll catch you soon. See you later.